Hey, are you part of those people that ever thought, I want to play Warhammer without playing Warhammer? Did you ever think that minis are kind of boring and that you really don't want to put in the effort to play the game? Did you buy Tabletop Simulator for that? Or just because you don't have friends and aren't in the mood to drive 6 hours to your nearest local game store? Well, this guide's for you, for the poor sods who bought TTS and now have no clue what they're fucking doing. There'll be a few steps to this guide, steps that I won't bookmark in the YouTube publication because I'm not in the mood to do that and won't be in the future. The first one will be a rough idea on how to build your list and how to port it into TTS. This will be done via a little application known as YellowScribe that will allow you to access your datasheets and have a cool few little features going on with your models while you play the game. The second part will be setting up a table, both as a host and as a player, alongside a little bit of TTS etiquette. The first step here will be actually making a list. I am going off the idea that you're using your recruit here. Rosterizer also works, it also has an option that makes it compatible with TTS, but New Recruit is generally the better software as it doesn't hog up all your CPU all the time, and I thoroughly recommend it. If you don't know how to use New Recruit, don't ask me, go ask somebody else, odds are somebody in your group uses it because it's really good. Here I already have a Custodes list, the little golden banana men if you aren't all that familiar with Warhammer. I've got all my weapon options loaded out, I've got an enhancement of my characters, I've got the right loadouts on them, generally everything you need to make sure your list looks good. Well, this established, let's go to TTS. The first part you'll be going for here is in the workshop. There'll be a few mods you want to download, as Warhammer isn't an official part of Tabletop Simulator. The first part will be ForceOrg. This mod here. It's maintained by Ryko, and is generally your one-stop shop for everything TTS related. It includes most Warhammer models, both general 3D kind of poopy models and actual photo scans, Games Workshop, all coming from people, and will help you set up your army properly. The next map you'll be looking for, in this case, is going to be the Hotbar FTC table. It isn't specifically going to be this map, but I am doing this in the second half of 9th edition, and this is the map we're using. It might not be this, it might be a map that's called FTC, it might be a map that's called My Right Testicle. Don't worry about it, as long as it's got all the competitive bits on it, and everyone generally agrees on using it, it'll do you good. I already have TTS booted up, so let's dive into it. You boot up TTS, open up a single-player lobby, and you're going to be met with the TTS table. From here, you're going to go to Games, you're going to go to your workshop, and there's a lot of mods here, don't worry about it. We'll look at ForceOrg. For you, it's just going to show up as one of your first and second options, because you don't have any other mods installed. Let's go to ForceOrg. Give it a little to load up its models. Mine will do it almost instantly as it has all of its models cached, but yours is going to take a little while to download. Find your faction, in my case, Adeptus Custodes, and load their models by pressing on the Load Models button. Once they're loaded, you're going to be met with a nice little roster of models. Generally, there's going to be anything you're looking for in here. If there isn't, well, wait a little, Ryko is eventually going to put it in. He isn't available 24/7, so just give it a few days. Once you've got your map set up, go back to the New Recruit page. Here, on the list options and export, you'll find a YellowScribe option. This is what we're going to be using to script in your army. You'll see a YellowScribe code pointed out. Technically, it copies it to clipboard. I found it isn't that reliable, so just right-click and copy it. Go down here in the ForceOrg map and press the Launch YellowScribe button. You'll paste your code in here. Give it a little. And you will see a whole bunch of options, all representing the units you've put in your army. So, for example, there is a Blade Champion, a few Custodian Wardens, a few Prosecutors, Witch Seekers. On and on. Grab all the models you're going to be using. Doesn't necessarily have to be the correct ones, just make sure they look right. For example, I have a Blade Champion. I don't necessarily have to use the official Games Workshop Blade Champion model, but I'm going to do so because, you know, it's nice and it's going to be the model that my opponent will most easily recognize. I'm going to grab some Witch Seekers, some Prosecutors, a Telemon Dreadnought, 2 of them, just to use different models. Caladius Grav Tank, in this case with the laser annihilators on them, or whatever the hell they're called, like Magna Blaze Cannon, like laser blaze cannons or something. Some Custodian Wardens, a Warden with Axilla, and a Contempted Dreadnought with a stock cannons. So once you've got that, and you've got the models you're going to be using, you're going to be left-clicking on the models option and select it. So, for example, select Blade Champion, click Blade Champion. Blade Champion is now selected. Custodian Wardens. If the model says that there's going to be multiple of them, it means you're going to be assigning one model, like one physical model, to multiple models in the unit. So, for example, these are going to be the Custodian Warden models that only have their Guardian Spear, and I'm going to use it for the Custodian Warden model that only has a Guardian Spear. And the model of Axilla is going to receive a model of Axilla. Prosecutors don't have any relevant differences in between their superior and the normal sister, so might as well just use a model for both. Witch Seekers, same thing, no real difference for any of them, just use a single model. Virtus Praetors, which I forgot about because I'm not that smart, find your Virtus Praetor model, this one, and click on it. Caladius Grav Tanks, same thing. Telemon Heavy Dreadnoughts. Here I have different enhancements on them. One of them has Augury Uplink. So I'm going to go through with it and say that to give an easier time for my opponent to tell which Dreadnought is which, I'm going to use one model for the Telemon Heavy Dreadnought that has the enhancement, and a different model for the Dreadnought that doesn't. 2 variable contemptors here. Generally, physical Warhammer is going to be decently fiscal about having correct layouts on your models. TTS, for the sake of having models that actually look like they're worth a shit and aren't a pain upon the eyes, will be a lot more tolerant with the weapon layout a model will have. It also is a lot easier to tell what weapons a model has, as you'll see in a moment. Once all that's done, you're going to press the Create Army button, and you will have a scripted army. You can see here that this specific model has all of its data sheet, and even a little wound counter. Now comes the time for the people that don't have a numpad to leave. You can't do anything further, get the fuck out. For the people that have a real keyboard with, real keys on them, feel free to start fiddling around with them. Numpad 1 key will open up your unit's datasheet. All of it. It is quite useful if you don't remember anything. Numpad 2 will tick down the wound counter. Numpad 3 will bring it up. Numpad 4 will extend a measuring radius from its base, 1 inch at a time. 5 will set it back in. Numpad 8, the other relevant button, is going to turn that base radius from, a circle to a square, just in case you're measuring from something like a rhino that has a decently squarish hull. That allotted, you're going to be drag-clicking your entire army. You use a computer, you know how to do that. Right-click, save object, and give them a funny name. We're going to be calling this one 1. Now, we're going to be calling it 2. I already have a file named 2, I'm just going to override it. That done, same exact thing as before. We're going into our map, we're going to look for the Hotspur Competitive 10th Edition map, and load it in. Give a little for it to load. Tabletop Simulator is a little bit of a fickle program. Pick your seat. Generally, host is going to be red, but if you want to be blue, I'm not your mom. I can't tell you what to do. And you'll be met with generally everything you'll need to have a good game of Warhammer. First of all, you're going to be setting what kind of game you're having. Generally, it's going to be 1v1, maybe 2v2. If you're playing Sandhammer, feel free to play single player or hot seat. I'm going to select 1v1 in this case, even though I don't have an opponent in front of me. The next step here, as it would be in a real Warhammer game, is going to be to pick your mission. You can go hand by hand, pick the mission you want. Some people do that, I don't. You can scroll through the official Games Workshop mission offerings, or roll a random one from within the Games Workshop missions, or you can have a fully random mission that picks a random primary, a random mission rule, and a random deployment. In this case, we'll have sweeping engagement, rapid escalation, and supply drop. I'm going to go down here to the select deployment zone area and select my deployment zone, sweeping engagement. I'm going to go over to sweeping engagement, and it's going to show the layout on the map. I am now going to pick which kind of map I want. I generally play on WTC, as I think that a lot of maps are really terrain lacking, but you might enjoy Games Workshop loadouts. Or you might be a psychopath and play on UKDC. I said before, I'm not your mum. Do what you want. Sweeping engagement. I'm very sure it was sweeping engagement anyways. Yep. You're going to be back with your deck. Other ones are going to have a deck. Flip them a little, and load your map by pressing on the Load Map button. You've got your map. To interact with the map, you're going to have a few cool things going on. The first one is WTC Ruins specifically will have multiple states. You can change these either with your page up and page down keys, or by right-clicking, going to state, and selecting a different state. This will be used to take out flaws, or put them back in. It is decently useful most of the time. Secondly, in case objectives aren't going to be showing up for some reason, you can move the objectives up. Maybe you're playing on a really well-made map that has a really tall floor, so feel free to raise them up. Same for the deployment zones. You can lift them up, or bring them down. That allotted, next step is going to be selecting your missions. Selecting your secondaries. Here, you're going to have access to whichever ones your current edition of the game is going to have on tap. In this case, I'm playing Pariah Nexus, so it's going to be the fixed missions Pariah Nexus can select, and then 2 tactical cards. In case I wanted to take fixed secondaries, I would select 2 cards by Control and left click, and then either press the F button to flip them over, or hold left mouse, pick them up, and press my middle mouse button. As I want to play tactical, as most people generally do, I'm going to select the 2 tactical cards, hold them up, flip them over, and then press the Lock in Secondaries button. This will bring them over here. They're going to be face down until your opponent also selects them, and then both will flip. Generally, you're both going to be playing tactical. I am going to go over to the other hand, which doesn't exist. Generally, your opponent will have a hand here. They'll do the same exact thing. Press Lock in Secondaries. Potato, potato. After that, you're going to be coming over to the Dice Roller. You're about to roll for who's going to be deploying first. Dice Roller is, well, the important bits are pretty obvious. Some do take a little bit of finesse to understand. These buttons, pretty straight up. You press plus 10d6, for example, you get 10d6. Once you're done with them, I would thoroughly recommend, instead of just deleting them, to put them in this bin. It will help the host CPU. I don't really know the reasoning behind it. I'm not, like, a TTS whiz. Ask somebody smarter if you really want to know. Roll all dice, does what it says on the tin. Audit roll is going to be for when you want to roll dice in order. Also, witness my luck. For example, you might be rolling Feel No Pains, or you might be rolling saves on a unit that has models with different save profiles inside them. So, for example, I don't know, I might be rolling for a unit of Chaos Space Marines that has a Chaos Lord in them. Both have a free-up save. I might be getting shot by, I don't know, a Meltagun that's AP4. I might be in cover, so the Meltagun would be going to AP3. I'd roll the first save on the Chaos Space Marine. He takes a 3, with each hit a 9 most likely. And then all the other ones would go in the Chaos Lord. They're all 6s, they will all be passed. That allotted, you're generally set for how to use a table. You're going to be, misclick the second, you're going to be spawning in your army. I think I named it 2. And flitting around with them. There's going to be a few options you're going to be able to do with your models by going over to toggles. The important one here is going to be measure movement. This will avoid you having to hold a tab button around while you move them, and will measure movement automatically. If it isn't working, go over to the line tool over here. You can either press F4 to select it or hover over the button and check your settings. For example, it might be measuring in centimeters, this is Warhammer, we measure in inches, or it might be measuring in TTS grid units. I have no clue how long those actually are. You can select it to measure either 2D, so only along the plane the model is going to be moving towards, or 3D, which, that's pretty obvious, I'm sure you know how the English language works. Auto and free here are going to be the setting that generally fucks you over. If the line tool is set to auto, it will automatically measure from a model. Generally, it's going to be from the edge of a model, from the closest point. If the ruler is set to free, then you're going to be able to measure freely, regardless of models. If your line tool is set to free, then automatically measuring movement isn't going to work. You want to set it to auto. Edge or center is going to interact how you measure for models. If it's set to center, you will measure from the center of a model. If it is set to edge, you will measure from the edge of a model. Logging and not logging is irrelevant, just turn it off so you don't clutter up the chat. That done, you're going to be playing your game, having fun, getting fucked by the dice because this is Warhammer and you will not have good things. Blah, 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 blah. Me and my opponent roll to go first. I deploy my army, whatever. They deploy their army. We select. I select. They're going first, for example. They're the blue player. I'm going to go to the red player first button, toggle it, and set it to blue player first. Blue player isn't here. The map isn't going to let me work normally. I'm just going to force it. So, once that's done, you're going to be met with a few cool things over here. Your cards are going to either stay fixed if you pick fixed, or your tactical cards are automatically going to go in your discard pile. To interact with the primary and secondary missions, you're going to be drawing from your deck. Don't do that by hand. This button will draw, this button will get rid of a card, put it in a discard pile, and this button will put a card back in the deck and flip it in. So I'm going to draw my 2 secondaries. Oh, I have some hostile objective. I can shuffle that back in. I'm gonna push the recycle button. And it's going to give me a new one. Defense Stronghold. It's going to give me a new one. There we go. Once it's time to score, you're going to be using these 3 counters to keep track of your points. For example, let's say that I'm scoring 10 points in Battleground 2, and I'm scoring 4 VP off of my second secondary, which would be this one. The points are automatically going to be tallied up over here. Command points also don't fiddle with them. Whenever you go from a player's turn to another, let me just switch to blue. The ticker will automatically go up. If you have a unit or a way to generate extra CP, feel free to press the Gain a CP button. It won't let you give more than 1. That's why we press this button, to avoid cheating. That assumed, that is generally everything you're going to be doing this table. Outside of flipping it at the end of the battle, only if it goes badly. If it doesn't, feel free to gloat on top of the opponent. This is TTS, you aren't going to actually be playing with your real friends, and everyone's going to be a dick. Just kidding. Well, don't play with randos, it's not going to be that fun. Oh, do. I'm not your mom. Also come join the Auspex server. I'm not affiliated with the Auspex channel from the Auspex Tactics channel in any way. I just play there all the time. And I need more people to play with. Please, come join, I beg you.